let's discuss this because there's a lot of reaction on the station the last couple days, and the question I'm wondering now is: have I overreacted? Have we overreacted?
Yes.
All right. Well, forget you guys for a second. Joe, are we overreacting? Are you and I and people that seem to see this the way? Are we overreacting? Because I feel like I'm in the twilight zone here, where a lot of people are like, no big deal. Meanwhile, 6 good players just left the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, and it could be a few more in the next couple hours. No, I don't think so, Joe. I don't think it is an overreaction. And let me be clear. I'm not saying the Eagles can't win the Super Bowl. I'm not saying they're not likely to be a playoff team. But their team has taken some significant hits, and that's a problem. I mean, I think just at a fundamental level.
Their entire offense is coming back.
Everybody.
Becton, potentially. Mekhi Becton, if he comes back, we got everyone.
But the defense was the stronger unit, and, the reality is.
That's open to debate.
It's not open.
No,
defense
being the stronger unit. That offense was historically. I mean, we just talked about Saquon having the greatest season of all time.
Absolutely not open to debate.
The defense may have been the best in Eagles history.
I don't think you ain't going to win that one, dog.
The offense was outstanding as well. I do think it's open to debate which side of the ball was more effective.
Joe, here's what I think's going on. Everyone's in a good mood.
I'm with you.
Everyone's in a good mood because the Eagles won the Super Bowl and should be. Thankful forever and all that. But I think there is some of that, what I'll call overtrust right now. There's overtrust. And I get it. I mean, Howie just delivered his second Super Bowl. We should trust him dramatically. Do I think he actually walks on water? No. And I think some people are acting like he does, and I think some people should rein that in.
Wait a minute. Hold on. We were acting like he walked on water last week when he got hit in the head with a beer can. And now all of a sudden guys leave. Now he don't know what the hell he's doing.
No, I'm not saying that.
That beer can may have been the issue here.
He knows what he's doing. It's just, look, we knew they were going to lose people. Hugh, wouldn't you say they've lost more than you expected?
Well, I tell you what, and I understand your angst when it comes to all of this. It's surprising, but not unexpected. Because going into this, and when they win the Super Bowl, you knew that guys that were not under contract, they were probably going to leave. There were going to be a lot of holes to fill because everybody, as much as we talk about family and camaraderie and being a part of an organization as great as the Eagles, at the end of the day, people
want to get paid.
That was a self-edit right there.
You slipping up already? It's 10:04.
People want to get paid, man. And if there's money to be made, like Milt, I saw a video last night. It's funny. Milt Williams' dad was at the parade. He had his whole ass out. You know why? He had his whole ass out.
His son was about to get paid.
Because he knew his son was about to get paid, and he wasn't going to be a Philadelphia Eagle.
Yeah.
He was on the back of that bus like he was the one that was out there playing because he knew that his son was going to get a financial windfall. That's how it goes. So I understand everybody being upset, but you have to know that when there's money to be made, you could talk family all you want. You could talk camaraderie. You could talk dynasty. The bottom line, people want to get paid, man, and they're going to go get paid.
So, Hugh, I totally understand that, and that makes sense. And I think we could have anticipated some of this. But, Hugh, if there's rain in the forecast and I go outside and I get poured on, I'm wet. It's annoying. Like that. Like the Eagles are a lesser team
But you
today.
know what? You know what helps with that annoying
What's
feeling?
that?
Money.
Well, sure, but I
Money.
didn't. But I'm not getting.
Go buy a raincoat.
Yeah, but listen, Milton Williams has the money. I didn't get paid because the Eagles lost players. We didn't get paid.
But I feel like this.
I like the analogy, Joe. That was a nice.
That was not a good analogy.
You're soaking wet. You can't be like, well, I knew it was going to rain. I'm still wet.
And you know what? You know why I feel confident right now? Let me tell you why. Because we were in this same position last year.
Not true.
No.
Well,
not true.
We're in this position most years.
No, Hugh, I think
you rebuild your team
tell
most
me,
years,
Joe,
guys.
Joe the camera.
What
No,
have you
wait a
been
minute.
missing?
No, Joe the camera.
What?
How were we in this position last year?
Well, last year they had to rebuild a horrible defense. Yep. This year they're trying to hang on to
Horrible.
a great defense.
And we rebuilt it with 7 new players, right?
better players.
Yeah, better. Next year is going to be
Wait a minute.
worse.
First of all, because
we have those players that are amazing coming
y'all
back.
are using information that you already have. I'm talking about take it back to when you didn't know. Take it back to right now. You didn't know Zach Bond was going to be what he was. You didn't know Isaiah Rodgers was going to come in and contribute like that. Hell, we didn't even know Slay was going to go out there.
You don't know that the new guys they're about to bring in are going to be as good as last year's guys.
Why don't you have a little faith in the coaches and the evaluators?
I'm preaching right now.
Preach.
You interrupting my sermon.
Preach.
You are interrupting my sermon
ahead.
now. We didn't know that Darius Slay was about to make tackles. Darius Slay changed his game for the benefit of this team, did he not? Because he didn't want to tackle anybody the year before. He didn't want to tackle anybody. They bought into what was being sold this season. And every year, you have to do a hard reset. This is what this is. This is what everybody, no disrespect to my co-host and you, but this is what everybody knows that played the game.
Little bit of disrespect.
No, just a little bit. No, not at all, because I love my co-host. I don't know how you feel about yours.
A little bit of disrespect.
But my point is this. This is a hard reset. This is what happens when you win. This is the ebb and flow of the NFL. So you don't keep everybody when you win a Super Bowl.
Hugh, that's totally fair. What you said, that you're right about that. Now let's go back, because everyone keeps pointing out that it's Howie. And I love Howie. I think Howie's going to end up in Canton one day, and they'll be in the Super Bowl again with Howie eventually. But 2 years ago, guys, they lost 5 starters off a Super Bowl defense. Right? They lost that Super Bowl, but they were in the Super Bowl. They fell to 30th in defense the next year.
From second.
Right, so second to 30. So this idea that Howie's...
And now we have Vic Fangio.
Right, but...
And Vic Fangio is overseeing this revamp of the defensive
That's fine,
side of the football.
But Vic Fangio, if you go through his career, has had plenty of rankings in the 20s. Vic needs players, too. Vic doesn't walk on water.
And he's provided
Well, he's got some.
We're talking about the keystone of Zach Bond, who's got the green dot and he's calling plays, or Nakobe Dean if he's got the green dot. Like those linebackers, we know we've invested
Nakobe off an injury. Nakobe off an injury.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Like, we don't know who they're going to get in March and who they're going to draft in April, but is there a chance, John, and you, Hugh, that for the next 5 months before the season starts, like, you're going to be like, it's all okay because Vic Fangio's here? Is it that simple?
No,
we're going to be adding good players that we feel good about right now.
But what if they add? But what if they add below average players that have to start because they need super cheap guys to go with the salary cap that's jammed up? What about that?
Normally, you do that with younger guys.
Let me help you out with this.
They're cheaper.
Let me help you out with this. This is where I think this team is, and I'm going to use Zach Bond as an example. Now, Zach Bond been in the league for what, 6 years?
Probably about that now.
6 years. Zach Bond until he came here, was a career special teamer, right? So he was with an organization that did not have the vision to be able to see him playing anywhere else but on a special team and then in a limited role as a pass rusher, correct? This coaching staff, they've assembled a coaching staff that I feel that's going to go out and they're going to identify the players that they feel that they're going to use in their defense, that they're going to implement in their defense, and they're going to put them in position to be successful. Because at the end of the day, and I used this analogy yesterday when I was with Joe, it's like a saw. And it's like the teeth of the saw are the players. And when some of those teeth break, you add new teeth. And you find the right materials and the right guys that fit into that system and work cohesively together. Because basically that's what it was. When you look at this defense, the biggest thing that stuck out to me was athleticism is a part of it. Like you say, Joe, it is a big part of it. But also comprehending what you're supposed to be running and fitting together in a way that makes the defense cohesive. The one thing that jumped out to me in the Super Bowl, remember when Cooper DeJean jumped that pick? Mm-hmm. And Zach Bond, during the game, said, "What did you read to see that?" And he was like, "Well, I saw him and I was watching film." The one thing that jumps out to me about these young guys at a young age, they watch a lot of film.
They ask questions if
they
don't
ask
understand.
a lot of questions, man. And I'm finna quote somebody,
smart, man.
and it's gonna sound funny, but the first part of being smart is knowing what to do.
That's our Super Bowl winning coach right there.
But that's the truth. And I go back and I think about the times that when I was trying to learn defense. And my biggest thing was I was trying to learn it from my individual job. And I remember my coach, Ray Sugar Bear Hamilton, set me in a room and he said, "Hugh, you can't learn the defense just by what you do. You have to learn the whole defense. You have to learn how you fit in the defense and how you work with everybody else in concert." They did a great job in one season working together in concert. It's almost like, perfect example. I'm on a roll today, dog. I'm just here to tell you.
He's on one.
You're Dancing with the Stars.
There we go.
When they pair you with your partner.
I'm excited where this is leading.
No, but I'm saying when they pair you with your partner.
You know how it works. I don't know.
Well,
pair you up with
but when
you never
they
watched the show, John?
When they pair you with
like 20
when they pair you with your partner, a lot of times, sometimes, it becomes a little bit more than what it's supposed to be.
What do you mean?
But the ones that have that,
what are you referring?
Like when Theo and that gal didn't get along. Remember that?
We're grown.
Remember that?
We're grown, but you have to have a
There's like a sensual dancing.
Well, you have to have a connection,
occurs.
and when you have that connection, it makes it easier to work together because you're in lockstep with one another. That's the thing that we failed to look at when we look at this defense. You had a bunch of rookies, you had a bunch of journeymen come together and be able to orchestrate this defense in a way that propelled them to be the
thought we were
number
talking
one
about
defense.
sexual tension.
Well, it was an innuendo, John.
Sexual tension.
It's an innuendo.
At the risk of going any further with this analogy, I've watched the show, and sometimes, Hugh, they just stink.
They do, but that's the
sometimes
point.
there are dancers, and they put them with the best instructor, and they stink. So
But that's what I'm saying. But then you have that one group that when you put them together,
But that group's gone
They
now.
work. They work
that
in
group's
concert.
no longer.
you go. I put it like this, Joe, in the way that I feel strongly about this. If you get the right kind of guys in here, the smart guys, they might not be as talented, but they're smart.
Yeah.
They can win like that.
Well, hopefully you're right. All right, 215-592-9494. If we overreacted the last couple days, as the Eagles are the only team, I believe. Let's go to the Surfside free agency desk with Elliot Shore Parks. Elliot, the only team so far in the NFL not to sign an outside free agent. Is that still right?
Yeah, that's still right.
Okay.
Still no signings yet for the Eagles. So today at 4 o'clock is when the new league year begins. Hopefully before then we get something. They are allowed to sign a free agent before then, or at least agree to a deal. So, yeah, I think that'll be what the next few hours about. But in terms of overreacting, like, yes, you guys are absolutely overreacting. And I also think you're setting an unfair standard for the team next year. We will probably never see an Eagles defense or team as good as the one we saw end the season. The way they played those 2 games, the way they played all year, they were not going to be as good even if they brought everybody back. I actually think their best chance at being better is mixing up the personnel a little bit. It's hard when you have the same 22 guys to go back and be as good. I also think you overrate the players that they lost. We saw Josh Sweat all season in his whole career. He's a nice player. He is not a difference-making edge player. He has times where he looked like it, but that's not what he is consistently. Darius Slay, everybody last year told me he does the podcast. Everyone was fine with losing Slay until they actually lost him. So, yes, they need to go get other players, but they still have the best roster in the NFL. They still have the best roster in the NFC. And I think if they played a game today, they'd probably win the Super Bowl again. So they have time, but I think you guys overreact.
So I think we may be overreacting to individuals, but, Joe, it's not – they didn't lose one player. Like, if they lost Josh Sweat, okay, Josh Sweat is good, not great. They've lost 6 players. And I'm just going to frame it this way to everyone. If the night before the Super Bowl or the Friday before the Super Bowl injury report comes out and Kenny Gainwell, Isaiah Rodgers, C.J. G.J., Darius Slay, Mekhi Becton, Josh Sweat, Milton Williams are all out for the game, how do you feel about the Super Bowl?
Yeah, that's a flawed argument.
But why? That's where we are today.
Right, but regardless, like, they have time to change it.
Sure.
And, like, saying the night before a game that you lose all these players is different. So
they all got hurt in the NFC title game and were unavailable for the Super Bowl. Would we have been as confident all week?
That's something different.
I think it is different. It just is.
But that's what they are today. That's the Eagles roster today is subtracted all those players.
But
we
have the ability to make up for
I
it. We're
understand
going
that.
Also,
to add for the
nobody's
next 6
arguing they're
months.
just as good. We're just saying they're still the best team.
My point is we're not realizing the significance of all they've lost. We're just saying, well, that guy individually. Added together, that's a big chunk.
They've lost 2 of the top 10 guys on defense in snaps, right? So we're mostly talking about depth guys.
It's got to be 3. With Slay, Milton, and Sweat.
So no, Milton's actually 11.
Okay.
But it would be
okay, so all the DBs are on the field more?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, they still have Quinion, they still have Cooper, they still have Jalen Carter, they still have Nolan Smith. The impact players are still on the roster. Isaiah Rodgers, it sucks to lose him for sure, but he played a bunch of snaps last year because Slay was consistently off the field. So, yes, they have lost depth pieces. That is absolutely undeniable, right? But they have not lost their impact players.
Well, they haven't, and that's still the good thing. They still have a lot here. They have a lot on the team, and Joe, there's a reason why people are holding that optimism. I need to see them do something to add before I feel like it's going to be okay. Like that, we'll get there. I'm sure they will add players, but I need to see those players first.
Well, look, here's what confuses me, honestly, about our show over the last couple hours. I think all I'm saying, and you guys tell me if you think I'm saying more than this, I think what I'm saying is I'm disappointed and concerned. Now, if that's an overreaction, so be it. I can't imagine that there's an Eagles fan that's not disappointed to lose so many players. And I find it odd if anybody's not concerned to lose so many players.
But why should fans be concerned?
Because they just lost a lot of good players.
So
and they're about to lose a couple more.
So they definitely lost good players, no question about that. But they have the ability to replace those players.
They have some.
Well, they
ability.
definitely have the ability.
No, but my point is they don't have $75 million in cap space.
No, but they
have some ability to replace players.
But all right. So Milton Williams, his replacement's on the roster. Moro Ojomo.
Who replaces Ojomo?
So, all right, so who replaces Ojomo? We're talking about the 4th defensive tackle on the roster.
But that's why they dominated the Super Bowl. They had the best
But
roster.
that's why you're overreacting, because you're talking about replacing the 4th defensive tackle on the roster. We can go to every NFL team that have larger holes than the Eagles have.
The 2 times they won the Super Bowl, there's 2 times here in the history of the franchise. They didn't win it because of their star players. They won it because of their roster depth.
And they still have roster depth.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
Oh, wow.
Do they not have the best offensive 11 players in the league right now?
I don't believe that. No.
Okay, who's a
the
better
teams
11?
that scored a touchdown more per game than them.
Okay, but which team won the Super Bowl and scored like 40-something
But they
points?
won it because of the defense.
Right.
No, but the offense was unbelievable in the Super Bowl and the championship game.
But they got there.
But the defense was better.
But you're acting like they're a thin roster all of a sudden. How are they a thin roster? They
No,
still have. He
I'm-
just said
I'm not saying
No, I know you're not.
Thinner.
I'm not
They're
saying
thinner.
They're thinner from being arguably like the deepest team we might ever see in an Eagle.
But that's why
yes,
they
you're
won
right.
the Super
The
Bowl.
And that's
offseason
why
just
you're-
started, man.
but that's
we get
why
to add guys.
You're setting an impossibly high standard. They were not
Well,
going
okay.
to be as good next year as they
you
were
know
this
what?
year.
Then just say they're not going to win the Super Bowl next year.
They're probably not.
Well, okay, if everyone's okay with that, then we can all take a deep breath. But I think when the season ended, people were saying, Dynasty, they're going to win again. That's taken a hit in the last 24 hours.
It has taken a hit. I would agree with you on that. But, like, they are still – I mean, they're probably still the betting odd favorites, right? Like, did
Sure.
Chauncey
I
shift
think
the
they could
odds? I would
still
guess
very
not.
well
so
win the
they are
Super
still
Bowl.
viewed as a team most likely to win the Super Bowl, or at very least they're in the top 3.
Yes.
Despite all these guys. Like, Isaiah Rodgers, believe it or not, did not impact the odds significantly
Exactly.
on this.
I'll bet we still have the best odds.
They probably-
I think
they probably
we still
do, yeah.
have the best roster because all the other teams that while they've added more than we have, they've lost as well, and it's going to take them a while to fit it all together. We're smart. We're a smart organization, and I do believe that they'll figure out a way to improve things past where we are now. Yeah, we feel a little light. I think we have.
But
we have 3 D tackles right now.
Baked into what he just said is, and it's what I've heard all morning too in the last few days. Like, Howie has a plan. Don't worry. Howie doesn't need a master plan right now. Howie needs to fill out the depth of the roster. That's much different than saying, well, we know Howie has some huge trick up his sleeve. They don't need a huge trick. They need, like, backup players. And I think you can find that between now and the end of the start of the season.
I think they need more than backup players. I mean,
Well, what starting jobs are available?
outside corner.
Outside corner would be the one, and safety. Those are
and
the
right
two.
guard.
and D tackle.
Right guard. Well, hold on. I think they would. I mean, Tyler Steen, I think,
Rotational.
could be
Possibly tight end.
possibly
Yep.
tight end. Yeah.
Well, and again, Milton Williams played the second most snaps in any defensive tackle. Like, the idea that he's just some guy. The NFL just told us he's not some guy.
He's a very good player.
Well,
I
so
agree.
that's another hole.
But Moro Ojomo had better rushing stats than Milt Williams did. So I think you could just plug him in
Moro
there.
Ojomo, how many career sacks does he have?
Moro Ojomo played like 50 fewer snaps from a pass rusher than Milton Williams did.
He
last
wasn't
year.
as good as him.
Right, but I think with a bigger opportunity, you will see more numbers.
Maybe. Well, we shall see. I mean,
And
guys,
possible improvement from Moro Ojomo. And we will add Moro Ojomo, and I do look at Milton Williams very similarly. Like
Yeah, I think Ojomo and I think if Moro Ojomo hits the market next year, he will get a big deal. That's
Yes,
maybe
I
not
agree.
$26 million, but I think he will get a big
depending on
deal.
how he plays, yeah.
well, I hope you guys are right, because then we'll be fine. This has been.
We will be fine. I believe we will be fine.
Will
Joe.
they be as good?
I don't
Defensively,
know that. I think
are you
it's
saying-
likely we will not be quite as good
As a
because we
team.
just were the best team in the
I think
world.
they will be.
Maybe the best team I've ever
Hugh,
seen.
you think this team is going to be as good as last year?
Yes, because
Wow.
I think that they're banking on that offense becoming everything that we thought they were supposed to be last year.
Yep.
Because of the way that the season
I
ended.
think they'll
And
get a
that's
better Jalen
certainly
next year than they
possible.
did
Yeah.
this year.
Well, they're going to need one, Joe.
Because
He'll
that's
be
what-
more comfortable. I do think
Yeah.
you'll see more on both sides of the ball too. More volume on the defensive side. Fangio said he couldn't put a lot of what he wanted to put in yet.
That's
because
telling.
he didn't want to overburden them.
But isn't that
And
the
that's
same
telling.
story now because they're going to have all these new starters? Aren't we
Well,
just repeating
I
that
don't-
in a different
No,
You
way?
know what? I don't think
because
so.
you will have some more
Some.
familiarity. You'll have guys who know it, guys who can say, "Oh,
It can
I know
teach
what
it.
you got."
Yeah, it can teach it. Because the biggest thing like I just go back to my time being on the field and being in the defense. If you got more guys, the majority of the guys that don't know the defense, like you have the majority that know it than don't, that puts you in a good position because now you can share that knowledge because you're constantly talking. The one thing that I remember about playing, you're constantly talking on the back end. You're talking about what you see. You're looking at certain formations. These guys are learned individuals. Cooper DeJean's is a smart kid. Very, very smart.
Well, he is. Look, they still have a lot of good players. We know that, but they've lost a lot. We'll react to it all. Have we overreacted? Those of us that actually are reacting strongly to this, are we overreacting? Where do you come down on the Eagles?